The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching Lindell TV. My name is Allison Steinberg, and we are live in D.C. here at the White House. It's going to be a great D.C. Live hour for you. We have a very special guest joining us in just a moment. But first, I wanted to highlight the latest developments on the ongoing Epstein saga. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche put out a statement this morning. It was reposted by Pam Bondi. Let's throw that up on the screen. I'm going to read it to you guys. It's kind of long, so be patient with me. But it says, this Department of Justice does not shy away from uncomfortable truths nor from the responsibility to pursue justice wherever the facts may lead. The joint statement by the DOJ and FBI of July 6 remains as accurate today as it was when it was written, namely that in the recent thorough review of the files maintained by the FBI in the Epstein case, no evidence was uncovered that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. President Trump has told us to release all credible evidence. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and the DOJ will hear what she has to say. Therefore, at the direction of Attorney General Pam Bondi, I have communicated with counsel for Ms. Maxwell to determine whether she should be willing to speak with the prosecutors from the department. I anticipate meeting with Ms. Maxwell in the coming days. Until now, no administration on behalf of the department had inquired about her willingness to meet with the government. That changes now. Wow, this is huge, very interesting development, and I think things are really going to be heating up here. So with that, let's bring on our wonderful guest, J.D. Rucker. He is the president of Patriot TV, and I think he's having some connection issues. So give us a moment here. We're going to bring J.D. Rucker on in just a second to break all of this down and get his thoughts on the latest developments with the Epstein saga. It's very interesting that, this would just now be happening, that the DOJ is just now announcing that that they are going to be meeting with Ms. Maxwell. So I think we have JD connected now. If he's there, we can bring him up. There he is. JD, thank you for being with us. It's so great to see you. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Allison, as always.
Absolutely. Well, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this latest development. Obviously, the Epstein saga has been ongoing for quite some time now. Most of the MAGA base has been very upset with Trump's response to this. He's written it off as a Democrat hoax. Many within MAGA have been speculating, is this true? Is there something more to this? Or is he just trying to sweep it under the rug and silence us? But now we hear that the DOJ is going to be meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell to get statement from her. Prior to now, this has never happened. So I think this is fascinating. Why are they just now going to get a statement from Maxwell, who's arguably the key witness in all of this, right? And wouldn't this mean that no real investigation has ever been, conducted prior to this?
Well, yeah, there was no reason for the previous 4 years for them to investigate because they didn't want to know. They're pretending to want to know now, and they're going to push. Oh, we want all the details, but they're only doing so because they think, oh, now the Republicans aren't going to allow it to happen. It is a good sign, and I'm very hopeful that Pam Bondi and the DOJ will make the most of this. My only concern, if I had one fear, it's that this is all kabuki theater, that they're going to get in there and say, hey, do you know anything? Because you're about to get subpoenaed by by the House. And so, we just need to make sure you're not going to bust anybody. I'm not accusing Trump or anybody of doing anything wrong. I'm just saying this sure does feel weird that it's happening now.
Yeah, the timing certainly is strange. You mentioned she is going to be subpoenaed by the House. We'll get more into that in a moment. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's weird to see. Well, I guess it's not weird. It's to be expected. The Democrats are obsessed with this now, when prior to now, I mean, they had all the time in the world to unpack this, never once had any desire to touch it until now, Trump has been brought into the mix with everything. What do you think, though? How do you see it panning out? Do you think we will eventually see the arrests that are needed in connection to all of this? I mean, I think that's why MAGA is so upset about this. Obviously, known pedophiles are, intertwined within our government, running, nations, foreign and domestic. Do you think we'll see justice here?
It all depends upon if they're able to cover up the things that they don't want uncovered. I think a lot of people are out there saying, "Oh, they're protecting pedophiles." That's true, but that's not the intention. They're protecting pedophiles because they're trying to protect themselves. They know that because of the aforementioned President Trump's been talking about how it's a hoax, and they added stuff to the documents. What they added was proof that the CIA and possibly other governments were directly involved. This wasn't just some rich financier and his mistress. This was actually a government operation. And their fear, I would say President Trump's fear and the rest of the administration, their concern is that if they go after this bad guy or that bad guy, that in discovery it's going to be revealed that, oh, by the way, yeah, CIA was doing this. This was, Epstein was a minor player. CIA was the one that's actually doing it. So if they can get rid of that, then yes, I do believe we'll see arrests. If they can't, then no, we'll never see anybody arrested ever.
Yeah, I'm still unsure how it's all going to pan out, but I pray that we do see the rest, because Trump promised that he would drain the swamp, and we're going to hold him to that. So if nothing else, I'm glad.
To that point, though, hold on real quick, just because you're right. I think what a lot of people, especially in conservative media, miss is that President Trump is trying to drain the swamp. He just knows that if he goes down this I guess path, that there are poison pills that could actually upend his presidency, that could be a swamp from being able to make America great again. I want to make it clear that President Trump isn't like, oh my gosh, we got to cover this up to protect the CIA. He's saying, oh my gosh, we've got to keep going, keep focusing forward, and make the best of what we've got, and hopefully let's get them enough information so that people like Rucker and Steinberg will stop asking questions.
No, I'm with you on that. I think that he does have our best interest at heart. I just think the way that this is sort of unraveled has been interesting, because if no prior investigation had been done on Maxwell prior to now, don't you think he could have approached this differently? Don't you think, instead of kind of lambasting the MAGA base and trying to dismiss this as a Democrat hoax, he could have been like, look, guys, there's never been an investigation even done on Maxwell. Like, we are going to get to this. We're going to start this now, instead of just trying to sweep it all under the rug. I think he could have handled it differently. But that's not to say I don't think he has the country's best interest at heart, right?
No, for sure, absolutely. I think that they were blindsided. Pam Bondi was definitely blindsided. They thought they had everything, and then once they actually got the stuff from New York, it's like, oh my gosh, poison pill, poison pill, poison pill, poison pill. And then they said,
Yeah.
hey, it was Biden, it was Obama. They all ruined this for you. And so they're like, well, we got to do something. So Trump, he came out and you're stupid. But, I forgive
Yeah.
him.
We'll let it slide. I did also want to point out, JD, that it is official. The Wall Street Journal has been removed from the White House press pool. This is very exciting news. Obviously, we're trying to get more of the real news outlets into the White House, and the Trump administration has been incredible with this. They've allowed so many new alternate media outlets in to the press briefings and into the White House, which is completely unprecedented. Outlets like Lindell TV would have never been welcomed here before, so it's a blessing and an honor to be here each and every day. But with that said, we know the Wall Street Journal recently came up with this whole hoax to try to smear President Trump regarding this birthday card to Epstein. He is now suing the Wall Street Journal, aka Fox, aka the Murdochs, because they're all in it together, right? So I think this all goes back to, why does the administration give Fox News so many interviews? I mean, Trump recently himself said MAGA hates Fox. So why is it? I'm just so curious to get your thoughts. Why is it that they continue to really primarily give their interviews to Fox News when they really are, on the wrong side of this? They are not doing any favors to Trump and his administration.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is, unfortunately, President Trump, he does want to take care of his people, right? People within his administration. And he does realize that even though he has challenges with Fox News and the Murdoch family as a whole, that he needs to pick and choose his battles. He knows that a lot of the people that are working with him today are probably going to go to end up working with Fox News or whoever. He also realizes that there's a good chunk of his base, especially the older base, that haven't found Lindell TV yet, but they need to. Those guys are still watching Fox News, unfortunately. They're still reading the New York Post. They're still reading the Wall Street Journal. And he's got to keep a decent relationship with them. Now, as far as the Wall Street Journal goes, that entire story is completely confusing to me. It makes no sense. Like, why would they run it at all? I mean, it was like, that's one of those things where it's like, you know what? You back off. You don't need, it's not like you need the money. You don't need the viewership. You're not some dinky blog. You're the Wall Street Journal. And you need to, I'm confused about that one. I'll admit, they had to know that he was going to come after him. It's not like his track record is to sit back and say, oh, yeah, we're going to say something bad about Trump and he's not going to do anything. Okay, yeah, no, he's going to sue you. You know that. And you're going to go after him on a 22-year-old birthday card that probably isn't even his? Come on. Makes no sense.
It really doesn't make any sense. It is absolutely ridiculous, to your point. It's confusing why they would think they could get away with that and even attempt to try to put that out there. But I'm glad that Trump is suing him, and hopefully they stay out of the White House press pool. That would be nice. Make some more room for the real news. JD, you touched on this a moment ago. The House met last night to actually vote on the release of the files. I guess House Republicans are in really no rush to force a vote on this. Of course, the Democrats are, with the addition of Thomas Massie, who has, sort of strayed away from Republicans. I think Massie does a lot of great things, but sometimes I don't know if he's just doing this just to wreak havoc. But what do you think? To release these documents through the courts, is this the right way to proceed with this, or is this better to be done through Congress as the DOJ? I'm sorry. Is it better to release it through the courts as President Trump is trying to make happen now, the DOJ is trying to make happen, or should this be done through Congress, as we've seen a couple attempts now to do? Or is it better to have both aspects working on this together?
Well, so I was listening to Congressman Burchett, who is one of those guys that has stayed, I would say, relatively true to doing what's best for the people. And his perspective, he's pushing. He wants to get it out there. He's not going down the same road as Massie, but he's supporting of President Trump and his push to have this done through the courts, have this done through the DOJ, keeping it all relevant. There are good reasons to do it like that, by the way, versus just a dump. Okay, we still have to take into account the victims and the people that could be collateral damage with no actual, that aren't pedophiles, but people that could get sucked into it. So if I had to pick one way or the other, I would have to go down Trump's road with the understanding that that we do need a lot more than that in the future. This is a good start. I don't like when Congress starts getting too directly involved with
Yeah.
the White House. The exception, of course, would be like the church committee, but that's a one-off that everybody's been trying to get back to, and I would say the deep state has been very well guarded from that possibility in the future. So I'm with President Trump on this one. I just want to make sure that there's more of it down the road, that this isn't like, here's what you get and that's it, nothing else.
Yeah, I'm with you. I tend to think, we should take what we can get, everything we can get at this point. I mean, to your point, Burchett announced that he's going to get Ghislaine Maxwell to appear for a deposition. So I guess if the House subpoenas Maxwell, that could potentially help parallel investigations, right? So I don't know. It'll be an interesting turn of events. But getting back to Massey, I wanted to play this little clip. He's really amping up the trolling now. I thought this was hilarious. He walked out of Congress with an Epstein file phase 2 binder. Let's watch this.
I was wondering, with the paralysis in the Rules Committee, it seems like they're not going to be meeting again today because of Epstein amendments. Have you chatted with anybody about that at this point?
Well, it wouldn't really matter. Their Epstein bill resolution is non-binding, so it's kind of fake. The resolution that I have co-sponsored with Ro Khanna would actually bring up legislation that would be binding on the president.
Is your understanding that will ripen the day after lawmakers get back from August recess?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have 6 days and we needed 7 days for the discharge petition to ripen before we could bring this up before the August recess. So we'll have to bring it up after the August recess. But the good news is the Speaker has no interest in keeping us here one extra day.
I mean, sometimes he tries so hard to be in opposition to Trump that he ends up siding with Democrats, and that is certainly the case here. I mean, do you think he's just playing into the Democrats' hands at this point?
No. I think so. Here's an odd take on Thomas Massey. Number one, as a person, I like him a lot. When it comes to his policies, I agree with a good chunk. Some of them he does go a little bit weird. As far as, are the Democrats playing him? No, because here's the thing. If anything ever happened where it came down to he was the deciding vote and then he sided with the Democrats, then I would toss him aside in a heartbeat. Yeah. But he's always going to the edge. He's always doing, as President Trump says, he's always grandstanding. And look, here's the bottom line for me. When it comes to Thomas Massey, do I wish he would shut up sometimes? You betcha. But I also think that he's an important part of the Republican Party in Congress because he does tend to hold their feet to the fire and expose things that need to be exposed. The GOP is not perfect. President Trump's not perfect. Thomas Massey's definitely not perfect. But two things. Number one, he does tend to hold their feet to the fire. Number two, he is exceedingly entertaining, and we need as much entertainment out of Capitol Hill as we can get these days.
Oh, I am so with you on that. He is. There's never a dull moment with Massey, so I do appreciate, the jokes and the trolling, especially that phase 2 binder. That really had me because, the initial binder situation, we just have to look back and laugh at it. So ridiculous. I did want to point out, though, now, terrible. He did mention that now the House is in recess. The Dems could not force a vote. So the House is departing now. Won't resume until September. So nothing happening in the House until then, I guess. So nice long break for them. Must be nice. In other news today, J.D. Rucker, the Trump administration released 230,000 pages of FBI and intelligence documents on Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1968 assassination, including investigation notes, memos, and CIA files. These files have been sealed since 1977 and never before digitized until now. So this is, again, interesting timing. Lots of Democrats saying that, this is just a distraction to cover up for all the Epstein stuff. He's intentionally releasing it now to cover up everything else going on. But let's not forget, President Trump signed an executive order back in January to release all of the files on MLK, RFK, and JFK. So it just so happens that now this is coming out, and I haven't had time to go through these all yet. I'm sure there's a wealth of information there, but I think what it boils down to is it was either the CIA or the FBI responsible for the assassination. Have you had any time to look into these yet? No worries if not, but what is your takeaway on this?
Well, so number one, let's go back to what you said as far as the timing. Timing is everything in DC. They plan things out to go out at certain times. This is one of those occasions where I'm with you. I think this is just when it was going to come out, and I think because there's no like super huge bombshells. There's some big stuff in there, especially as it pertains to the CIA, the FBI involvement with MLK, the hatred there has always been very well known. CIA has always been hinted at. Now we've got a ton of documents to demonstrate, oh, yeah, they really did hate him. They were trying to tie him to Castro. They were trying to tie him to anybody they could get him attached to. They believed that he was a true communist. And I don't know if they actually believe this, but their narrative internally was that this guy's a communist and he's gonna try to take down the United States of America, and we got to figure out a way to take him out. So the question of did the FBI have him assassinated? Was it CIA? Was it Memphis police? I hate to say milk toast, but my gut feeling, based on what we've seen so far, is that they all played a role in it. That Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. died because he was trying to do something. Something's good. There's bad to him too, right? But he died because he made very powerful people in our government scared, and he died as a result.
Yes, he did, and it's just another story of government involvement, government cover-ups, and it's sad, but I'm sure we'll learn a lot more about this in the coming days as we start to unpack what is in these files. It'll be interesting to see what is in there. In other news, though, authoritative acronym agencies, in conjunction with the International Intelligence Community, are responsible for the literal coup of America, as we know. Some say it did happen, I guess, in 2020. I guess that's when a lot of people woke up. But many people would say it goes as far back as to when they killed JFK. I mean, when do you think all of this really started to unravel?
Well, one of the interesting parts about the MLK drop was the notion that the CIA was operating here. And unfortunately, you were breaking up. I kind of only caught a little bit of your question. Do you mind repeating it? I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm sorry.
Up,
I know sometimes the mic has a hard time connecting. I was just asking, when do you think we really started to see this deeply entrenched, government CIA involvement in, the assassination of these figures of America?
Yeah, so the correct answer, unfortunately, to that is right from the very beginning, right from the formation of the CIA and the FBI. They were built, around, and we're going to get conspiratorial here, but this is what I truly believe, that there was already the foundation of evil that was forming within and we're going to get conspiratorial here, but believe that the foundation forming within our had been part of their life. And they utilized what perceived needs to manipulate congressmen, senators, presidents, the press, anybody they needed to manipulate in order to create these organizations. Now, I'm not going to go out there and say every single CIA agent or every single FBI agent or whatever, they're all bad people. I think most people go into it with good. But as far as the organizations themselves, I would argue that they were formed specifically to do what we saw with JFK, what we saw with RFK, MLK, what we're seeing today, what we saw with Butler, what we're seeing across the globe, and especially even here in the United States. So I don't think that either of these organizations were corrupted. I think they've been doing exactly what they were intended to do from the beginning.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it really is incredible when you know what's really happening. And sadly, so many people are still just asleep to the reality of the situation. They just believe what they see and hear on the news and call it good. So that's why I'm so grateful for voices like yours, JD, to unpack and uncover the truth and the reality behind these wild situations that we find ourselves here in America. JD, any final thoughts before we wrap up today? Anything you've got on your mind or anything you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, just real quick, I got to say this. And I don't know, you're live, but it was, so President Trump came out and he demanded that Bondi go after specifically Barack Hussein Obama and doing this to the press. And I'm just like, this just happened. I'm just like, wow, this is what I voted for. And it was the first time, I think, in the last couple of weeks, it was the first time I thought to myself, wow, People like to say that meme, oh, it's happening. It's really happening. For the first time, I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, is it really happening? Praise God for
Wow,
President
that
Trump, and praise
is.
God for you, Allison, and Lindell TV. You
Oh,
guys are just
thank
absolutely
you.
fantastic.
Well, we appreciate that so much. And God bless you too, JD. We love all of your work, and it's always a pleasure having you on. And thank you for sharing that with us. I did not know that that had happened because I was live, but
Just
I
happened.
can't wait to go back
Mhm.
and rewatch that. And wow, that is going to be very exciting. Good stuff. JD Rucker, thank you again. Where can people find you and follow you for all of your great work?
I was actually last week just named president of Patriot TV, and I'm going to be hopefully
Wow.
meeting with Mr. Lindell here soon. See what we can do. Maybe we'll be working together. Who knows? That'd be
That is
awesome.
so exciting. That would be an epic duo, epic matchup, I think. So we'll see what happens. JD Rucker, thank you so
Superhero
much.
team up.
Yes, I love it. All right, everyone go follow JD. Thank you so much, JD. Take care. All righty, with that, we are going to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be back with so much more. We're actually going to feature a hearing that is had. A hearing that was had on Capitol Hill just a moment ago. It is literally on foreign abuse of U.S. courts, which obviously is very pertinent and relevant to everything happening in the country today. So be sure to tune back in for that. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with that for you. Thank you so much for watching Lindell TV. I'm Allison Steinberg.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
I apologize. I'm having a Ronald Reagan teleprompter moment here. Let me get the script. Nope. One page off. You know, the difference between being here too long and not being too long is I still recognize when the opening statement and the script have been reversed. For now. The subcommittee will come to order without objection. The chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. We welcome everyone here today on a hearing on foreign abuse of U.S. courts. I want to include that this is the title, but not by any means the limitation. And there are a multitude of bills which have been made available to everyone here that we believe are open and available for discussion. So we have a distinguished panel, and I recognize that you're able to go into areas beyond any one piece of legislation. I'll now recognize myself for that opening statement. Again, I want to thank the witnesses and make it clear that the Chinese Communist Party is waging what they call legal warfare using the U.S. courts. Although this is not new, the previous administration elevated it by covering repeatedly a number of the areas in which the CCP has been, in fact, using our system against us. This is over and above the 10,000 attacks a day that occur on the internet. This is over and above their spying. This is over and above the abuses that occur on companies in China. This is, in fact, using our patent system, our trademark system, and our courts to their advantage. We take this seriously, that we will not be abused any longer. Legislation and rule changes by the administration need to happen and happen now. Let's make it clear. There are legal actions that the Chinese businessmen and others do, and we want to make sure they're protected, just as we want to make sure that American companies, European companies, and individuals all over the world have access to our courts, to our patent and trademark system, and to our economy. In fact, some of our own laws have made it easier for the Chinese to take advantage of us. Our courts are the backbone of our Constitution, and we will protect it. Legislation that sanctions the PRC alone cannot be enough. We also have to strengthen the system itself from this type of activity. One of them is, in fact, open and transparent disclosure of who is truly behind a litigant. That includes third-party funding of litigation. It also includes, and should include, a thorough recognition that often there are a series of shell companies, even U.S. Subsidiaries that in fact have little to do with anything except covering their true source. All of that is not new. We see it in criminal operations, in human trafficking, in drug smuggling, in commercial fraud, and that is not limited to any one country. But the fact that it's backed by a powerful country who is using and weaponizing this is particularly disturbing. As we all are aware, often we are just a few weeks, few months, or maybe a few hours in new technology ahead of China compromising it and using it. That includes a look-alike of the F-13. That includes a duplicate of the CERN Super Collider new version. That one will be out before ours is built here in the United States. So we're not going to be able to fix it all here today, and it's not all within our jurisdiction. What is within our jurisdiction is to look at and to make available greater transparency, to empower our judges to order that transparency, and in fact to make it clear that a case should not go forward if, as is constitutional, a person accused of anything criminally is entitled to be faced by their accusers, their true accusers, which would include those who have people step forward. That is our law. But in civil matters, that often is a one-way street. Defendants under Rule 26 have to disclose if they are insured, have to disclose, quite frankly, their own financial condition, and even the financial condition of their principals. That is not always the case in the case of the plaintiff, and we need to have that. In preparation for this hearing, I have met with a great many companies and law firms who use third-party litigation funding or who partner with other companies. None of them object to, in fact, the transparency of disclosing that. Many of them have cautioned that the discretion by the judge as to admissibility to the jury is a different story. And I want to make that clear because it is not the intention of this chair or of any legislation I have yet seen to interfere with a judge's decision on admissibility. But when it comes to the right to know, whether in camera or otherwise, this information is critical in making the decision about protective orders and the conduct of the case. The subcommittee has broad jurisdiction as to the courts, but we want to use it wisely. And in this case, recognizing that transparency is one of the most important tools that we have, we want to make sure that it is brought to the attention of everyone. As I said earlier, this hearing does include a number of other pieces of legislation that I believe our panel is able to answer, and we appreciate your indulgence when those questions are asked. And with that, I recognize the ranking member for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. This subcommittee has held a series of bipartisan hearings over the last few years on the threat from the government of China. As a strategic competitor, China is seeking to develop cutting-edge technology to win the so-called AI arms race with the United States. It also competes for soft power around the world, competes for economic predominance, and competes for strategic resources. There is nothing wrong with competition. There is a problem with breaking the rules to get ahead, and that is what China has sought to do. Over our hearings, we have examined cases of economic espionage, threats to American intellectual property, cybersecurity risks, and the different ways these actions by China threaten U.S. national security. Today, we're here to examine the use of our court system by Chinese actors. We absolutely agree that China is seeking to gain ground in our strategic competition by encouraging Chinese businesses to harm American companies, and that can include through our court system. I've enjoyed working with Chairman Issa and my colleagues on these bipartisan hearings, and I sincerely hope we can continue to examine the threat from the government of China to our national security, our economy, and our power abroad on a consensus basis. But there are areas where we have disagreed. Last Congress, this committee slated a partisan bill for markup that would have prevented companies on certain sanctions lists from obtaining new U.S. patents or enforcing the ones they already own, devaluing U.S. patents, and violating international agreements. While the Preventing Adversarial Patents Act was removed before it could be considered by the committee, the bill was a reminder that there are significant disagreements between the two parties on this issue. So I worry that this hearing on China's, quote, abuse of the U.S. courts may be a Trojan horse to disguise a very different agenda. I fear that as a so-called solution to the China threat, I will hear proposals like, you can only file a case if you disclose all of the funders of your cause, or you can only file a suit if you are rich enough to pay a huge bond in case you lose, or let's start limiting discovery rules and make them more restrictive, or we'll flip the presumption of enforcing foreign judgments wholesale and adopt China's restrictive approach. The answer to a threat cannot be Republicans' tort reform wish list, and our constituents deserve better than a system where only the well-connected and the rich survive, because that's exactly what we would get from that list. This world I just outlined would mean that the big guys, the oligarchs, get their day in court, but the little guys, the Davids to those Goliaths, would be shut out. America's justice system has for so long been a shining light of equality in the world. And we must safeguard this impartial justice system now more than ever. Becoming more like China won't stop China. It won't work in our court system, and it won't work in our trade practices. But it's a reasonable concern. Our democracy has been under fire by wannabe authoritarian Donald Trump and his White House cronies, the very big guys who could benefit from all the proposals I just mentioned, who do not care about justice and the rule of law. These folks are the ones who let Democratic senators get tackled to the ground at news conferences and who block members of Congress from federal facilities. These are the leaders who tell the DOJ to investigate members of Congress who dare criticize the president and who nominate far-right MAGA loyalists like Emil Bovee to federal judgeships, knowing that these sycophants will put Trump's whims above the Constitution. And if we start chipping away at our impartial justice system and make it harder to access, Americans will lose their ability to challenge these assaults on our rights against these rich, connected oligarchs. We cannot let our system become the playground for the big guys, the oligarchs like Donald Trump and his cronies. That's not justice, and we must protect the system where no matter their status, anyone can walk into a U.S. courtroom and be treated as an equal. So again, I thank the chairman and our witnesses, and I look forward to exploring this important issue, and with that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. I now am pleased to recognize the ranking member of the full committee for his opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the witnesses for joining us today. Like its ally, the authoritarian government of Russia, the authoritarian government of China presents a serious threat to American democracy, our economy, and our national security. And China's intensifying economic and technological competition with the U.S. has at times led to pitched battles in courtrooms across America. We've seen cases affecting our national security, intellectual property, and the safety of Chinese dissidents living here in the United States. It'd be great if we had a partner in the White House to help us respond to the threat of these repressive autocratic regimes, but Donald Trump has consistently bragged about his marvelous personal relationships with Vladimir Putin, who he has called a genius for invading Ukraine and has consistently praised, and President Xi, who Trump calls a brilliant guy who controls 1.4 billion people with an iron fist, and whom he has praised for sending Uyghurs to labor camps, saying this was exactly the right thing to do. Trump's been systematically dismantling the programs that protect America against espionage, propaganda, and malign political and electoral interference by Russia and China, while simultaneously dismantling the domestic programs that make us strong. His administration has been deleting the programs designed to combat malign foreign power interference in our elections, including the Foreign Influence Task Force at the FBI, the Global Engagement Center at the Department of State, the Critical Infrastructure Partnership Council at the Department of Homeland Security, while simultaneously Infrastructure Partnership Council at the Department of Homeland Security billions of dollars countries for development and democracy assistance and for humanitarian programs, which China is now gladly taking up in our place. They are filling the void left by Donald Trump's abandonment of the space of foreign assistance. Trump, meantime, has been systematically destroying Radio Liberty, Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Asia, and other broadcast vehicles that we use to counter Chinese and Russian propaganda and disinformation all over the world. Trump has put Carrie Lake in charge of world communications, an election denier, a January 6th denier, an all-around mindless repeater of garbage conspiracy theories and lies, totally consistent with the Chinese and Russian agendas for the destruction of American democracy. This hearing is important, but it ignores the structural shift in our government in favor of the autocracies and kleptocracies who are Donald Trump's political soul brothers. It is also, of course, a distraction from the mounting failures, scandals, and embarrassments of this administration. Republicans this month passed a bill to throw 17 million Americans off of their Medicaid health insurance. The rescission package Congress passed last week cuts $1 billion from public broadcasting and billions more from foreign aid, all of which is nothing but music to the ears of propagandists and foreign recruiters for China and Russia. Meantime, Trump is refusing to release the Epstein files, more than 100,000 documents which he was demanding for years in order to blow the lid off of what he and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and the mega media were describing as a massive global child sex abuse and human trafficking ring for the rich and powerful. Bondi, acting under the direct supervision of Donald Trump, ordered more than 1,000 FBI agents to work as part of continuing 24-hour shifts, poring over more than 100,000 documents in the Epstein file, photographs, videos, emails, and texts. They were instructed to immediately flag all references to Donald Trump, all appearances of Donald Trump, and all images, likenesses, pictures, and videos of Donald Trump. At the same time, Kash Patel has been administering loyalty tests and lie detector tests to FBI agents. So this is a profoundly troubling and suspicious turn of events as Donald Trump seeks to sweep the whole thing under the rug, and our colleagues in the majority have now canceled all bills because they don't want to go before the Rules Committee to have to face more votes on whether or not to release the Epstein files. So we're examining the threat from China as though Donald Trump is not ceding more global power to China every single day, but he is. During his first term, he received millions of dollars personally from the Chinese government and state-owned companies, to say nothing of the valuable trademarks Chinese authorities rushed to grant him and Trump family members. In exchange, he opposed sanctions against Chinese telecom companies and banks, even when they threatened our national security. He even tried to cancel military exercises with Japan and South Korea because Russia and China voiced objections to it. His second term has seen more catering and appeasement to the autocrats. Over the last 6 months, the administration has weakened America's soft power abroad by defunding foreign aid programs systematically and closing embassies. It's hurt America's economy with illegal and arbitrary tariffs that leave us isolated and hapless in the world. In his second administration, Trump appears to be hell-bent on remaking his administration in the image of Xi's regime, cracking down on media outlets he disapproves of, destroying academic freedom with attempted hostile takeovers of colleges and universities, including America's oldest university, Harvard, attacking attorneys for representing clients or causes he disfavors, purging libraries and censoring books, sending masked agents in unmarked vans to arrest foreign students without arrest warrants for voicing opinions he disagrees with, shipping people to El Salvador's notorious prison of torture, and using AI to surveil individual social media posts and to create a mega database of all Americans' information. Look, in America, everyone is allowed to petition the court for relief, regardless of the depth of their pockets or their country of origin, making it harder for litigants to access the courthouse doors, even in the name of strategic competition with the foreign power, would make us less like America. That's not acceptable, obviously, yet that's exactly what some have suggested, instead of actually developing government policies that make us strong versus China and prevent illegal subversion and interference from China and Russia. In the context of our competition with China, we should never forget that those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. That's Ben Franklin. This has been a matter on which there's been strong bipartisan agreement in the past. I hope Republicans and Democrats in this committee can continue to uphold this basic yet vital framework, as difficult as Donald Trump has made it. I yield back the balance of my time.
I thank the gentleman for his opening statement, and I will note that in September we have both the FBI director and the AG coming, so we are not ignoring any of your concerns, and I thank the ranking member. Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. It's now my privilege to introduce our witnesses, and if you don't mind, I'd like to go out of order a little bit. We have the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Moore, here to introduce his witness. You could use your You don't get that in this committee, but we would like you to introduce your witness.
Well, thank you and good morning. It's an honor to introduce a constituent of mine, Brad Mueller, who's going to be testifying before the committee. And I'll read briefly about his bio, and then I'll just talk like we do from North Carolina about him. Brad is the marketing communication strategist with more than 35 years of experience, and he works presently for Charlotte Pipe and Foundry. If you like pipes, if you've ever drank water, then you probably drank out of one of their pipes. They're the leading producer of pipes in the United States. They're a fifth-generation company based in Charlotte. They were founded, I believe, in 1901. Right. You weren't there then, though. No, I don't think so. Not quite. But Brad's got a very distinguished background. He actually was in Washington for 10 years, where he worked for USAID and the Bush administration, he was the desk officer and managing foreign aid programs for Afghanistan, and later for Central and Eastern Europe after the 1989 fall of the Berlin Wall. He then later went to work for the late Michael Deaver, who was the former Deputy Chief of Staff to President Reagan, on a variety of public affairs, international relations, and trade issues. and he is extremely active in the community. He is known internationally really as an expert on trade issues, and I can tell you, I consider it a real honor to have Brad in our back home to be one of my constituents. And this company has such an amazing reputation. But if you want to know, if you want to find out information about how trade is affecting businesses right here, how unfair trade is hurting businesses and causing job loss, you have an amazing expert to testify today. So I'm proud to have a fellow Tar Heel from the great state of North Carolina here with you today, and appreciate the committee hearing from him. So treat him nice if you don't mind. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I promise to treat him nice. As a matter of fact, I consulted with J.M. Eagle of California, and they believe that you are a superb witness since you're the two competing top two. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Della Briere, hopefully I got that close to right, who is a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, a think tank focusing on national security, foreign policy. Her work at FDD focuses on China policy. Ms. Della Briere also is the co-founder of Horizon Advocacy, a consulting firm focused on the implications of China's approach to geopolitics. Welcome. Mr. Julian Koo is the faculty director of the international program at the Maurice A. Dean Distinguished Professor of Constitutional Law at the university's Maurice D. Dean School of Law. Professor Koo research is focused on the relationship of international law, the U.S. Constitution, and China's relationship with international law. I think Mr. Bradford Muller has been well introduced, and we're thrilled to have you here today. And lastly, we go to Mr. DeLeo, thank you, DeLeo, who is the Stephen A. Kozin Professor of Law at the University of Pennsylvania. Professor DeLeo is also holds appointments as a professor of political science and director of the Center for the Study of Contemporary China at Penn. His research focuses on China's engagement in international order, law, and legal institutions, and their relationship to the politics and policies of China and the U.S.-China relationship. We welcome all of our distinguished witnesses, and pursuant to the committee rules, I would ask that you rise to take the oath. Customarily raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief? So help you God. Thank you. Please be seated. Let the record reflect that all witnesses answered in the affirmative. For all the witnesses, please be aware that although we ask that you stay within 5 minutes, your entire opening statement, along with additional material that you either have today or that you can supplement, will be made in order and a permanent part of the record. I thank you, and Ms. Della Briere, it is not Briere, it's your 5 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. It's an honor to be speaking before you and the committee and alongside my distinguished co-witnesses. Beijing competes with co-option, not confrontation. The Chinese Communist Party does not directly attack its adversaries' systems. Instead, Beijing seeks to subvert them from the inside, such that they advance Beijing's agenda rather than obstructing it. In the military domain, for example, China positions to control critical information systems, value chains, even political stakeholders, such that it can decide where missiles are positioned and how they're perceived rather than having to launch them itself. In trade, China has not sought to supplant the World Trade Organization, for example. Instead, Beijing has sought to manipulate it by holding others to its rules without following them itself, such that China can weaponize international free trade. And inside the United States, the Chinese Communist Party uses the American legal system to advance Beijing's agenda, punish its opponents, and neutralize U.S. defenses. Benefiting from the reality that China's centralized, opaque system allows it to out-resource competitors in courts, to co-opt key stakeholders, and to manipulate information. This poses a threat to American security and prosperity. Offensively, Beijing works to shape U.S. laws and regulations and their implementation, in many cases via U.S. entities that have been co-opted by dependence on or resources from the PRC. Beijing has also proven its willingness to use the U.S. legal system to punish those who stand in its way. Beijing does so, for instance, with SLAPP lawsuits that are intended to censor and intimidate critics by burdening them with costly legal defenses. Beijing also does so with IP lawsuits that, through the discovery process, granted access to valuable technology. And on the flip side, China provides IP litigation funding for its companies in order to protect them from facing the consequences for their tech theft. Beijing also defensively games U.S. laws and regulations, circumventing and neutering American efforts to defend against Chinese bad practices. In response to U.S. tariffs and other trade restrictions, for instance, China transships through third-party countries, often obscuring country of origin. China also localizes in countries that have preferential trade relationships with the United States. And China localizes in the United States. Doing so allows Beijing not only to avoid U.S. trade restrictions, it also allows China to benefit from preferential policies that are intended to support U.S. domestic and partner industry. Moreover, localization in the United States allows Beijing to maintain and to expand its united front, the network of co-opted stakeholders through which it undermines the U.S. system from the inside. This entire program, offensive and defensive, benefits from Chinese government resourcing. Directly and indirectly, the Chinese state provides the resources necessary for its agents to outlast and outspend their competitors and their targets in U.S. courts. The Chinese state also provides subsidies and guidance for go-out companies such that they can expand their presence abroad. And the Chinese state provides policy insurance mechanisms that are intended to de-risk investments that might be vulnerable to regulatory hurdles, as well as instructions for navigating U.S. procurement and policy. Because Chinese abuse of the U.S. legal system is systemic, it demands a systemic response. Tactical measures, like anti-SLAPP legislation and protections to defend American companies from exposing their IP to China via discovery are important, but the U.S. response cannot end there. Chinese and Chinese-backed entities should have increased information sharing and transparency requirements when bringing cases. Those receiving direct or indirect funding from the Chinese government should face a higher pleading standard in the U.S. So should American entities that work with them. U.S.-based actors that engage with Chinese state-backed and government-linked players operating in or importing into the U.S. market should have to disclose as much. Law firm and lobbyists that work with those entities should not be eligible for U.S. federal government funding or defense industrial-based procurement. More generally, sovereign immunity should not be extended to PRC entities. Foreign entity of concern provisions should be expanded to apply to all government authorities and support programs, and strengthened with presumptions of denial. Across the board, the definition of a Chinese entity should be tightened, such that Beijing cannot circumvent through shell companies, joint ventures, or localization. China is an adversary. This has been internalized in the United States, if belatedly. So has the strategic imperative of decoupling from China economically and industrially. But to do that, the United States also has to decouple its legal system. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Koo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Johnson, and distinguished members of this committee. Thank you for this opportunity to address what I call China's asymmetric lawfare challenge to the United States judicial system. I just want to define lawfare as a term for us to understand here. Lawfare is a systematic use of judicial proceedings to accomplish strategic or military goals, political goals. This involves manipulating legal processes to undermine, discredit, or impose substantial financial burdens on adversaries through judicial mechanisms. The Chinese party-state lawfare demonstrates consistent patterns. Initiating entities maintain ostensible independence from the Chinese government. Chinese plaintiffs often retain most prestigious, the best U.S. law firms to represent them. And even if their litigation is often in the preliminary phase and it will impose substantial costs on defendants. I call these tactics asymmetric lawfare because China is exploiting the weaknesses in its own legal system to gain advantages in U.S. courts, while the U.S. and U.S. plaintiffs cannot reciprocally use China's legal system for its own strategic goals. These tactics that we're going to discuss here can only really be employed by China and never by the United States. And China's lawfare raises particular concern because China's unique control over its private sector through state-owned banks, Communist Party cells, and United Front partnerships means ostensibly private Chinese companies are vulnerable to being co-opted to serve